Thank you so much for joining us for a new episode of A New Go of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya Chrisanthon, and today joining me, my very old friend, Abby Cornelius, who is the leadership advisor with Elevate Actually. So, welcome to the show, Abby. I am so excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Anya. Always great to catch up and have a chat.
Yeah, so speaking of catching up, you just made a big career move. So after over 20 years inside home building, you've joined Elevate actually as a leadership advisor. But before we get into what you're building now, take us back. And you started as an intern and grew all the way to executive roles at top five national builders. So give us your journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. If we crack the nut open a little bit, I got into home building as a fluke. I was a finance major in college and I was planning out what that next move is. And my cousin was actually working for a national home builder in the Baltimore area and she was crushing it. And she was like, "You should do an internship with this home builder. You don't want to sit in a cubicle all day. You want to do this. You want to be in model homes and you want to, be with people." And so I asked if there was an internship. I got an internship and I never left. I stayed and I worked as a sales assistant in the model homes all through the rest of college. So I did that for a year and a half and then went through a rigorous almost year training program before I got promoted. And to be able to come out of college with an opportunity to, one, make really good money. Six figures as a college grad is just insane. So that was kind of like my first taste of, oh my gosh, like this is unbelievable. But then the work that we do in getting people in homes was just really, really fulfilling. And the change of scenery and I still love the smell of lumber. There's something about that new home build smell and then the finished home smell. And I did sales for a while and then I transitioned into sales training, which really was a byproduct of how grateful I was for everybody who poured into me to get me onboarded and to help somebody who never even rented a house. I was working for a home builder living at my parents' house. So for people to teach me how to teach other people how to buy a home when I hadn't even done it myself and to give me such a great career, it felt like a privilege to pay it forward. And so I was a sales trainer, training all the new hires that came into the company for almost 4 years. That's how you and I met. You were one of the trainees under me, which was really exciting. And then I shifted back into sales for a little bit, which was humbling, but also really powerful to take all that time training and learning and coaching others how to do it to get to do it again and to do it differently and maybe with a different perspective. I absolutely crushed it. I had probably my best year going back into sales and then quickly went into sales leadership and found myself enjoying being able to pour into people longer term. As new hires, I would just have you guys for like 6 months, maybe a year if it was a longer program. But as a sales leader, now I got to invest beyond that initial training. And it was really exciting, but also getting to see a different side of the business. So spend some time in that sales leader seat and transition to some other builders and ultimately was put into a position to be in a training and development program for division president, which was really insightful. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But while in that program, I also did 9 months in land acquisition. So that was just a totally different world for me. Talk about being thrown into the waters of, oh my gosh, I've never done this. I don't know what this is. It's a whole different side of the business. But I really think that's where an enormous amount of professional growth happened for me. And then ended up taking that back into a director of sales role with just a whole new different perspective of our business and what we do every day. And now I want to gift that to other leaders. That perception of being in different roles and seeing the whole operation and how it works together made me a better director of sales. And I want to gift that to other people, no matter what seat you're in, not just sales. If you're in construction or purchasing or land or marketing or finance, whatever it is, when you understand how the whole thing works together, it allows you to show up better in the seat that you're in.
Absolutely. So it's interesting. You and I have a little bit in common. So I actually started off in finance out of college. So I wish I would have found my way sooner into home building and into new
Yeah.
home sales. I did spend a few years in finance, and like you, I quickly realized, you know what, this whole desk sitting around is really not for me. And I was just miserable. And so I wish I would have made that switch sooner than later. But luckily, I came across you. You were my trainer, as you said, which, kudos to you because I was named a Rookie of the Year for my class, for my cohort. And I think that's just a testament to you and how great of a trainer you were. I just remember how engaging you were. It was not a boring for learning from you. It was interesting. You made every single lesson like so things very quickly clicked for me, I feel like. It was entertaining. So kudos to you. So guys, I can personally attest to just how great of a trainer Abby is. But looking back at your career, so obviously you've done it all, right? Like you've jumped around through several different roles in home building, which, as you said, it really gives you a different perspective on the whole industry. Are there any favorite moments for you, whether it's in your time in training and leadership? What was your favorite thing? Obviously, you're doing something on your own now, but if you had to stay in that one role that you've done, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody has met me over the years, when I talk about my career, I always say my favorite role was when I was a trainer. And that's why I'm back in the seat that I'm in right now. There was something about that role and that season of my life just pouring into other people
Mhm.
that was insanely fulfilling for me, but also just to see how quickly people can grow and adapt and watch their successes. So for me, that's always the best part. Like knowing that I played this big of a part in your amazingness, Anya, and
Aw,
it was
thank you.
all you, but to see you even when we were at the Builder Show and to see you on stage and working your magic and being like, oh, I remember little Vanguard Anya coming into her first training thing and seeing how you grow. And so many people I've had the privilege of training are now division presidents and running their own businesses in some cases, or a lot of them have shifted into the land side of the business. And it's just so neat to see everybody's career path evolve and to get to be a part of that journey. So for me, that's the highlight. And that's why I'm back there because I want to keep the good times going.
Well, it totally makes sense. And while you were in the sales role, you went through a year-long training. We both worked at NVR, obviously, and that's one thing that they're great at is training their people, right? Like you're not hired and you're just thrown into it. They really take you through very rigorous program. And even after that year-long program, you're still getting ongoing coaching. But you were very surprised that that was not the case when you got promoted into a leadership role, and suddenly there was no coaching or very little coaching on online coaching, not what you expected. So take us kind of into that moment. What was actually like stepping into the role of a leader and realizing like, oh, I gotta figure this out on my own now.
Yeah, that was so shocking to me because I also transitioned as a leader with the company that gave me all that amazing training as a salesperson. So part of me was like, surely they're going to have all of these great things for us, right? For the leaders. And honestly, I got promoted and it was, here's your team, have fun, go figure it out. And I mean, I winged it. Let's just say that I winged it, right? Like I think a lot of leaders do. I knew enough
Right.
about what I didn't want to do based on managers I had in the past, or what I really wanted to do based on the great managers that I had. And I was very ambitious, and I knew enough about training and coaching where I felt like I could do that part really well. But really, it was the bigger picture stuff that really I just kind of felt out of my depths, right? I can coach a salesperson through a coaching conversation or a lead conversion conversation because that was my wheelhouse. That's what I'd done. I can onboard a new hire because I had that skill set already, which not many people do when they get into leadership. But for me, it was sitting in the ops meeting and being like, I don't know what anybody's saying. I don't understand days under construction. I don't know variants. I don't know why we're worried that this vendor might have gone out of business. Who cares? Do I really need to worry about that? But yes, you do. Everybody needs to worry about it. And then figuring out how long it takes for land deals to come on board as a salesperson or as a builder. When you're in the field, you don't see that process happening. You just get plopped there once it's done. So being in those conversations, I really just felt like a fish out of water. I'm sitting in those meetings just a little bit confused, vigorously typing notes or Googling shit on the side. Like, what does this mean? And my leader at the time was also new to the organization. So I didn't have a leader that I could go to and say, hey, what do we do? I was actually at the time the most tenured person with the company in our leadership team. So even construction partners, all of that, we were all relatively new either to our role or new to the organization. So I really felt an enormous pressure and I didn't know what to do. And eventually they sent me to a 2-day manager training course at the corporate office, which I was so excited for. And it was great because I got to collaborate with other leaders, I got to find my people, but the content didn't hit because it was done through an outside company and it wasn't home building specific. So it was
Mhm.
generalized leadership tips and tricks, which were great. But I had a hard time, to your point, of connecting those dots. Like you said, one of the things in our training, I tried to work really hard to connect the dots, past experience to what we're doing here. And I felt like that training just didn't hit, or maybe I hadn't experienced enough to really know what they were even talking about. And so it just felt really, really hard for probably a year, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I can imagine because people think like, oh, if you're a great salesperson, you're going to be a great sales leader because you're essentially leading your team. But there's so much more to go with that, right? As you said, even just the new jargon, all these new things that you have to worry about that you didn't have to worry about as a salesperson. So one of the things you said is it's interesting that we spend so much time investing in our salespeople to serve our customers, which totally makes sense, right? We want to give them the best possible customer experience. So why aren't we investing the same time into training our leaders because our leaders serve our people. So
Yeah.
why do you think this gap really exists in home building? Because it feels like it's the same conversation I keep hearing over and over again when I talk to sales leaders, especially new sales leaders.
Yeah, I think it's time, if I'm being completely honest, is I think our biggest obstacle. As a sales leader who loved training, if I had a moment in my schedule, I would want to train. But the reality is you're busy and best intentions, are just that. They're just best intentions if you don't actually have the time and the capacity to do it. So for me, I think that every division president who's onboarding a new department head, a department leader, probably has the best of intentions, right? We're going to have weekly one-on-ones and I'm going to sit down and coach you through this stuff. But the reality is there's a corporate meeting and a marketing meeting and this department's struggling and this land deal's falling apart. And all of these meetings, well-intentioned coaching sessions get rushed or get skipped or get delayed. And so I think that's part of it. Just like when I was a sales trainer, part of the beauty of that role was yes, should the sales leaders be training their new hires? Sure, but they're so busy that they can't. And so the company
Mhm.
was really smart to hire regional sales trainers to do that for the company to give them that focused attention that they needed. And it was proven to be highly successful. And I feel like we need to do the same for our leadership team. The division president is too busy, and we just need to say what it is. Like they're very, very busy. They have a lot of responsibilities, and not all of them have the skill set to train, coach, and develop people, right? They're really great
Right.
operational thinkers, they're really great financial leaders, but they may not be great coaches and trainers, and they may not have the capacity to do that. So why don't we have leadership coaches for all leaders in home building has always just been lost on me. And it's something they like to outsource. But again, you're outsourcing it to a generic leadership company that doesn't understand your business to the fullest degree, where they can really serve and make the greatest impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is typical to see trainers inside of an organization. If it's a larger organization, obviously NVR is like one of the top home
Yeah.
builders, so they have that dialed in. But for smaller guys, they may not even have in-house sales
Right.
trainer, right? And as a new home salesperson, you're essentially thrown in. It's just like trial by fire. So go figure it out. So it's surprising that it still doesn't exist in the larger organizations. So,
Yeah.
one of the patterns you talk about is leaders who spend more time putting out fires, as you say, than actually moving the business forward. So, what's actually happening there, and how does a leader break out of that cycle of just constantly going from one meeting to the other meeting, not being able to necessarily pay attention to what's going on with their sales team? We all know fires are constantly happening in home
Yeah.
building.
Yeah. So context switching is like the skill you probably have to develop the most when you're a leader of a big department, right? And when I say that, I mean if you're managing really 10 or more people is when the wheels start to fall off the bus, if you will, and you truly feel like some days are spent just firefighting. I'd come home at the end of the day, I would be exhausted, but I'm not really sure what I accomplished. I don't really feel like I moved the business forward. I just kept us functioning today. And that's going to happen from time to time, right? Home building as a whole, we operate in three urgent buckets of sales starts and closings. So if I need to do something today that gets me a sale today, I'm going to stop everything else and I'm going to do it. If I have a closing that's falling apart, I'm going to stop everything else and I'm going to fix it. If I have dropped the ball somewhere in the design process and a start isn't happening, I'm going to stop everything and I'm going to fix that, right? So those are the times when we should be firefighting. Those are the things that are urgent and important in our business and should take us out of whatever else we have going on. But what I found was I had a really hard time due to that noise of taking the time apart to schedule meetings and build processes that actually relieved that day-to-day pressure. And so, as I started thinking about my time as a salesperson and reflecting, okay, what are some things that helped me here and how can I apply that to my leadership role? I quickly realized that things like your weekly sales and construction meeting that you did as a salesperson helped eliminate daily calls to your builder team, right? Because you knew the status, you knew what was happening, and you had a conversation scheduled for next week to follow up. So I had to begin creating cadences as a leader that helped eliminate those daily firefighting. So that became scheduled one-on-ones with my team. If they knew I was calling them Thursday at 2 and I actually held that Thursday at 2 call, they would save stuff for me, the non-urgent stuff, right? So I wasn't getting bombarded with emails or texts or, hey, Abby, just a random thought. The random thoughts got saved for Thursday at 2 for our one-on-one. And so that really started helping save me an enormous amount of time. And then also having that time with my leader. So instead of me feeling like, I don't know when I'm going to get them, I need to just text them right now. I knew Friday at 10, I have my one-on-one with my boss, and I can save it for that. So I think the best way to start getting out of firefighting mode is acknowledge what's truly urgent and important and is allowed to derail you. And it's just those three things, sales starts and closings today, not future ones, sales starts and closings today. And then creating a calendar and a cadence to meetings that allows you to get ahead of the other stuff and identifying if there's a process that you need to implement. And I don't think enough people talk about this in leadership training. And it's something I'm really, really big on because it's saved my ass so many times. Am I allowed to say ass, Anya?
Yes, you're allowed to say yes.
Okay. It saved my ass is something as simple as my team sending me emails with offers. And you can take it or leave it. Maybe you're anti-offers, but when we're in an environment when offers are going, I want to see them, right? I don't want the sales team saying no if there's something I can do. Well, the offers would turn into like half-baked texts, half-worded emails, and it became a stress point for me because I didn't have everything. So I'd end up sending them an email back. Is there this? Is there that? Are they using our mortgage company? How much are they putting down? Is there a house to sell? And it was this like constant just back and forth trying to get all the information I needed before I could validate the counter offer. So finally, I was like, this is ridiculous. We just need a process. And so I created an offer sheet that answered all the questions. You're not allowed to text me or email me anymore. You need to fill out this form, send it in my email. Then you can text me offer in your inbox if you want me to prioritize it. But that simple process saved me so much time and so much stress. And then I had a clear form that I could then calculate the margin on, put it on there, put my suggestion. And if my division president wanted to be part of that, then I had something easy and clean to send to them too. That was
Mhm.
more well thought out, more executive facing than this scrambled amount of texts and emails that we were doing before. So if there's anything that's repeatedly firefighting and creating pain in your day to day, see if there's a better process behind it too.
Love that. I mean, you guys, right away, you got a couple of takeaways here, right? So make sure you do have that schedule, call, or visit with your team every single week so they can save those items for you that are non-urgent, like Abby said. And then I love that idea of a spreadsheet. I mean, is that something you'd be able to share with us? Maybe we can have it as a download for our listeners
Yeah,
because
I can make a revised copy for you guys because it's really helpful.
yeah, I mean, I've never heard of that before, and I can think back to my own days as a salesperson. And yeah, you're in a pinch and you're like, oh, what do I do? You're calling, you're emailing, you're texting, and that's a simple, simple solution. Any other tips that you have that would empower your team to be more of an independent thinkers rather than relying on their sales managers constantly? What can our sales managers do to really foster that in their sales team?
Yeah, self-reliance is huge. And when you get to the point where you're lucky enough to have a self-reliant team, this is when a lot of the pressure comes off your shoulders. I remember having new team members, and on the weekends, I would get texts that say, like, my sprinkler is broken. Okay, great. What am I supposed to do with a broken sprinkler on Saturday at 11 when I'm at my kids' baseball game or whatever? So eventually you get to a point where your team knows who to go to for what. The overarching message I would give to a leader who feels like their team's bringing everything to you is
Mhm.
you teach people how to treat you. So if they're bringing everything to you, it's because you've become the bottleneck and you've become the only way the problem gets solved. And that's a little bit of tough love, and that's humble pie I had to eat myself because as a new leader, I wanted to be resourceful. I wanted to be reliable. So if somebody texted or called me, I would answer right away. I would solve it for them and it felt good, right? Like, oh, yay, I'm doing my job. I'm helping my team. But quickly that became, they don't know how to do anything without Abby getting involved. And then it became exhausting and burnout and firefighting. And so instead, what I would do is pause. Again, if they're not texting you like a sale's about to fall apart or a closing's happening, you don't, I know this is going to be like controversial, you don't have to reply right away. You don't have to answer on the first ring. I can't tell you how many times I will let it go to voicemail. They don't leave a message. I'll text an hour later, hey, do you need me? And they'll say, nope, I solved it. Or nope,
Yep.
I figured it out. So sometimes you're a reflex for them and we're stopping them by solving it on their own by being too responsive. So that would certainly be my first tip is let it sit. If it's not truly urgent, let them try to figure it out on their own. And then when I do answer, I'll ask things like, "Oh, well, where have you looked or what have you tried?"
Hmm.
My sister was a kindergarten teacher and she did this thing called Three Before Me with her kids, where she would tell them, I want you to try three different things before you come to me. So that could be reaching out to a friend, reading a book, whatever that looks like, right? Three before me. And so I started to try to implement that with my team. Like, who else have you called? What else have you tried? Have you looked on SharePoint? Even if I know the answer, right? It's easy for me to just tell them the answer and let's move along, but you're not building self-reliant people that way. Or I might even say, hey, I'm really busy. I'm about to step into a next meeting, but you know who's really good at that? Bob. Bob is a closing king. Why don't you call Bob, tell him what's going on, and I bet you he'll give you a really good strategy. You don't have to be the only person to solve the problem. That's like a misconception about leadership. It's about building the people to figure out how they can find it on their own and build that resourcefulness in themselves.
Yeah, I can imagine that as a leader, you can almost feel hesitant to, I want to call it outsource this, right? Because it's just
Yeah.
like with anything else, you feel like, ah, it's going to take me longer to get that to somebody else. It's easier for me to just take care of it. But if you keep taking care of it, they never really learn. They never take
Yeah.
ownership of that. So I love that idea of three before me, the kindergarten style. Like,
I know.
you guys, Abby, you're dropping so many gold nuggets already. This is priceless. So you guys hopefully taking lots of notes on this. So Abby, you believe that leadership is stewardship. So leaders are really entrusted with people, their performance, and I mean, frankly, the future of the business itself. So how does that framing change how someone actually leads their team day to day?
Yeah, so for me, stewardship is like you're entrusted with something. It's in your care, it's in your responsibility. And that can be overwhelming, right? It can feel heavy, it can feel hard, but I'll kind of go on like a little side journey here. So, not that long ago, my husband and I were across the street at our neighbor's house. They have a 2-year-old and a baby on the way. And the wife said to my husband, as our older kids are playing with their little son, the wife said to my husband and I, she said, how do you guys do it? Like this parenting's hard. Do you have any tips for us? And my husband, without a beat, said, it's only hard for the good ones. And in that moment, I was like, one, I married the perfect man. Like, how sweet is that? That's so true. It's only hard for the good ones. But I also started thinking about leadership. And so often we hear leaders say, it's hard. Maybe I just want to go back to an individual contributor. Like, I don't think I'm cut out for this, or it's harder than I expected it to be. And to that, I say, it's only hard for the good ones. And that means that you care. So I think the leaders who feel like leadership is heavy, like, good. It's like a parent who wants your kid to do well, right? You want them to thrive. It's a huge responsibility. So, it's the same thing with your team and with your business. You have this responsibility to both. And I think if you take that mindset of my job isn't just to keep things moving every day, my job is to care for this person long term and to care for this business long term, you just start making decisions differently. But you do have to have a little bit of pause and breath in your day to think a little bit longer term and to think, to your point, it's very easy for me to solve your problem and it's probably quicker if I just did it. But is that really taking care of them long term? No. Is that building a future leader? No. That's giving me an ego boost and a dopamine hit of Abby, you solved a problem, but that doesn't actually help that person grow. And it doesn't help me grow either because now I have somebody else that's reliant on me. So I think it's that more holistic approach of I've got this big responsibility for people and the business, and I need to be forward thinking in that pretty much every day.
Yeah. With all of your experience, again, going through pretty much every single role in home building and all the nuggets that you already delivered to us so far. I mean, you guys, she's given us like a basically a mini course already on leadership, right? So all of this became a leadership elevated, which is
Yes.
a leadership development designed specifically for home building leaders, leaders in home building industry. So tell us a little bit more about this program and really how's it different from a generic program that you took?
Yeah. So, first of all, I took all of my experience and basically said, what do I wish somebody taught me sooner? Right? Like, how can we help leaders get up to speed faster? How can we make it easier for them? But then also, how can I take this gift that I was given during that division president training and that operational overview and give that gift to everybody? You shouldn't have to be at the top of your game and being in the business 20 years to get that level of coaching and development. I think if we bring that even to our individual contributors in the field and we teach them how the business works, it gets us all rowing in the same direction and it's going to help us be far more efficient. So what I did is honestly, I took sticky notes of all of my ideas, all of the lessons that I learned hard, but also the lessons that I felt like people kept coming to me and saying, "Hey, Abby, how do you manage your time? Hey, Abby, how do you actually coach somebody? I've never been a coach or a trainer. I don't know what that looks like. Hey, Abby, I got to go tell this person that it's not working. How do I have that conversation? I want to build a process. I don't even know where to begin. My boss is a no person. How do I get a yes from them?" All of these things that kind of kept coming up as repetitive themes for me as a leader for myself, but also my friends, my co-leaders, the things that we've been struggling with. And I turn it all into a bunch of little lessons. And I put it all together. And so it can be broken up into mini workshops. It can be done in its whole entirety as a 2 day workshop, which really excited to bring a 2 day workshop to your entire operational team. I don't think that's been done before. I think we're really good at saying, hey, sales leaders, you run the revenue ship. So you get to go to a conference, you get to go get this special training. But when are we training our construction managers? When are we pouring into our purchasing managers? When are we pouring into our marketing managers? They're still leading people in your business, they're still impacting revenue. Every department does. We all have impact to the bottom line. And more importantly, we work better when we know how our peers operate. So, my goal is to do this 2 day workshop with entire operational teams to get them working together, to create collaboration and alignment, but to also give everybody the same words and the same skill set so that they can better support each other after the workshop, right? Hey, Abby taught us how to coach. Here, let's go to the book. This is our coaching framework. Now let's implement this together. And then I also have taken that exact same content and broken it into a virtual 6 month program. So, if an individual maybe just needs a little extra support, maybe they're a new leader, maybe they're new on their team, and they just need some new skills and want to do it alongside other people in the industry who get it, there's the 6 month cohort where we would meet every couple of weeks for a 1 hour training session where I help you with real time issues. Because coaching isn't just, I'm going to tell you, here's the playbook. I want to hear what's not working for you and how can I help you move the needle for yourself, for your sanity, for your team, and for your organization.
Love that. So you have a couple of different options there.
Yep.
So your cohort for Leadership Elevated is opening in September, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So who is right for this program? You talk beyond sales leaders, just thinking
Yeah.
about actual sales leaders, but and maybe who is not the right fit for this?
Yeah, so the cohort is perfect for anybody who manages at least one person. So if you're a department head in home building and you have one direct report, the cohort is great for you. But it's also really great for somebody who is ready to invest the time and effort. And so I would say the opposite is true. It's not for you if you just feel like you're not in a season where you can take on one more thing and you don't feel like you could show up and you don't feel like you would implement things because it is going to require some action on your part. That's the whole beauty of coaching, right? Is that as long as you do the thing, you get the repetition and you get the reward and the behavior sticks. So it's really truly for anybody and really somebody who's already managing somebody. I can certainly help teams with emerging leaders, but this one, I want the folks who are in the trenches, shoulder to shoulder, saying, I got you. I know what's going on. Because within the cohort, I'm limiting it to 10 people, but I want this to become a network of people that you take throughout your career. I know for me, when I've been in these smaller pods and smaller intimate circles, those are the people that are on my text chain now, years later, being like, oh my gosh, Anya, I just took this new job. I'm so excited. You were one of the first texts I got, right? So these people become your people throughout your career. So I don't want to just give the gift of, here's some really powerful leadership lessons that's going to make it easier for you. But I also want to give you the gift of a peer network, which will help make your life easier also.
That makes total sense. Now, obviously, the times are a little tough right now, depending on your market. We all know sales are hard to come by these days. The sales cycles take a while longer than normal. And usually, when that happens, we know marketing gets cut and leadership development or any sort of coaching is the first to go. So, for somebody listening to this, and they're like, oh, I probably can't get approved for this, or I don't know if it's the right time for my team to do this. So make the case for us. Why is this the exactly wrong time to stop investing in your leadership team?
Yeah, because your return on investment is enormous. If you can get your leaders operating at a higher level and simplifying things for their team, everybody in their roles are going to do better work. You're not going to have turnover, which we all know turnover is expensive, right? People leave because their boss is ill-equipped, their boss isn't a great leader, or the culture's tanked. That's expensive, right? If you have a sales leader who is just giving things away because they feel the pressure of a sale and they're eroding your margin because of that, that's not good for your business. But a well-trained manager and the program materials that I have will help them think about other ways to get a sale that doesn't include slicing a price. And same thing with construction, okay? If your days under construction are slipping, that is a huge cost to your business. But if I can get your team working better together and thinking differently, and they can minimize those days under construction, how much money would that bring back into your organization? So just like I was saying earlier, that taking the time up front with your team will end up reaping rewards later instead of just quick fixing it. Slicing a training and development budget might feel good today, but the impacts are going to be far greater tomorrow and down the line if you take that time and invest that money now so that they're better equipped. I think now more than ever, leaders need support. I know in my network, it's not really small in home building. It's pretty much all my people are home building. Everybody's stressed, everybody's tired, and everybody's just looking for a way to do more with less. And coaching and empowering your team is the way to get them to perform better with less. And teaching them all how to be more business minded, I think, is what's really missing in a lot of our training and focus. When I was a director of sales, would go into and ask, I would be mindful of, oh, this might not be great for construction, or this might not be great for purchasing. And all of those decisions, me saying, yes, let's get rid of metal vent hoods as the sales leader, makes construction's life so much easier, right? It makes warranty's life so much easier. Purchasing's like, yay, one less thing we have to track. And now my decision helped all of these other departments be more functional. And that's what I want to bring is awareness to everybody. And so that everybody can start doing their job better. And your return on that investment is going to be better margin. It's going to be lower turnover. It's going to be just a better and more efficient workforce.
Yep. At the end of the day, I love that you have expertise in all of those things, right? You're not some random person coming from the outside. It's the same thing with marketing. I
Yeah.
get bombarded constantly for people wanting to be on this podcast who are general marketers. And I'm like, I'm sorry, no, because you don't get
Yeah.
marketing for home builders because
Yeah.
it's very, very nichey, very different industry, and you really have to know your stuff. And Abby really knows her stuff, right? Because
Oh,
you've been through
thank
all these
you.
different departments and you really have a broader perspective. So I love that. Now, Abby, if somebody's listening to this, whether they manage a team of mid-level managers or maybe they're just a manager on their own, and they're like, you know what, I'm struggling, but before we join this program or before we bring outside help, what one piece of advice that you would give them to really help them kick things into gear? What would you have them do? Maybe advice for this week or this month?
Yeah, the very first piece of advice that I would give you is pick one. Pick one thing you want to get better at, that you need your team to get better at, and that you want to move the needle on. I think too often in our industry, we have a lot of noise, right? There's a lot of things that we need to improve on, and then we scatter our efforts and we don't get that true depth of solution that we need. So for me, that was probably one of the first lessons I needed to learn as a leader is pick the one thing that I think if I impact this, it's going to have the greatest impact for my team and the company, and triple down on that. Put all of your energy, effort, and that extra free time you have every week towards solving that one problem, and then you can move on to the next one.
Yeah, love that. One thing, right? You don't need to do all the things.
Yeah.
Great advice. Now, Abby, tell us where can people connect with you personally, where you hang out online, and then also, of course, where can people learn more about Leadership Elevated?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is my platform of choice. So find me over there. It's just Abby Cornelius on LinkedIn. I also have a free weekly newsletter for leaders on LinkedIn called Leadership Edited. So you can subscribe to that and follow along for just free tips delivered to your inbox on how to show up 1% better every week. And then to learn more about Leadership Elevated, you can go to elevateactually.com and click on Work with Abby, and you can learn more about my program.
Love that. And I will link all of that in the show notes so you guys can easily find that information. Abby, thank you so much for being on the show today. I feel like I've personally learned a ton. I'm sure all of our listeners are like, whoa, oh my God, if you gave this much value on a podcast episode, you guys imagine what she's going to do when you're actually paying her to teach and coach your team. So kudos to you, Abby. Thank you so much. Again, I am so excited to see where you guys go with Elevate. Actually, you make such a great team. I love to see ladies kicking butt and taking names. So I'm going to be cheering on you guys from the sidelines.
Well, thank you, Anya, for always being such a cheerleader and supporter of me, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. And I will talk to you very soon. And you guys be sure to check out Abby and all the things she has going on for you. Until next time, bye.
Bye.